Yo, dude,
What's up?
you see you're just finishing brunch
How do you know that?
because apparently before the camera comes on, I could see you.
Oh, okay.
So you were frantically like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah." And I actually just did the same thing,
Nice.
but I was on time.
Oh, shots fired.
Just can't win, Josh. CX noggin.
I know, I know. Well, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great, except for I rode today my like hip or my glute, everything that bothered me last year here, and now I'm wondering maybe it wasn't my saddle, maybe it's just riding in the flat. I think I nudge forward more naturally here on this flat ground, and I was like, man, I do not feel that great right now. And so I started riding this SMP saddle. Called the Dynamic, and I actually immediately was like, "Whoa, this kind of makes me sit." I don't want to say sit back, but it changes. I'm not as like my. I'm having a hard time putting this into words. I don't want to say it's. There's so many things that if I say, I'm like, no, that's not really it. Like it's not that my hips aren't tilted forward, but it just sort of shifts me back a little bit and almost makes me use more hamstring, it feels like. And when I'm in Blue Ridge Mountains, it's great because you're climbing and stuff. But when you're naturally riding on flats, I kind of nudge forward anyways. But now I realize that's 5 hours here. And so I think it's just way too much hip flexor being used. And so it started to bother me. And then I thought, I'm like, well, I am kind of sitting on the saddle a little differently. And I nudged back in about 15 minutes. It was like, I don't want to say pain, but it definitely was not comfortable. It seemed to subside. So I was like, well, I'm still going to go home and I'm going to the gym later. So I didn't want to do a super long ride. But it definitely was a little unnerving to have that happen. And I will also add that I had not been super diligent with stretching and the like glute bridges and fire hydrants. I haven't been doing them as often as I was before, but because the issue hadn't been bothering me, so that's part of my problem too. I mean, just letting some of the little things go to the wayside when there's not a red flag. And so hopefully this goes away. I'm going to go to the gym and tonight. But yeah, that was kind of my morning. It was early morning, 5:30 ride, back at 9:10. Feels so weird. Like it's
That's
2 in
nice
the
though.
afternoon. Oh wait, it's 9:30. Never mind. So
So I got a question about that saddle because I think that saddle is made to like. I've never used it, but I know people love it. Isn't it made so that you can't really move around? Isn't that the whole like it locks you in?
it does lock you in a little bit. I don't know if I would say it locks you in. It's also if you have it set up properly, which Patrick has the same saddle and he has it tilted way out of like their recommended range. He likes it that way. I looked out like, man, that's not how it's supposed to be set up. It's really, he's like, oh, but my hips are really wide open. I'm like, cool, if it works for you. I I've always slid forward. And part of the reason is my seat post is so exposed. The bike naturally wants to put me way back into grandma cruising position. So my seat is always slammed forward and I always tend to nudge forward a little bit. I also have a super aggressive drop. I think there's just a lot of little things going on in here. But now it's just weird that I got down here. I've been here for 5 rides and I'm like, it's back. That's not making me pumped. So I think I need to ride tomorrow and sit back more. And the way I can tell is the one issue I had was when I started riding, it's like, this is odd now. Now the shift levers, I have a 130 stem on that I've ridden forever. It seemed a hair too long. Like the shifters were just like not in the exact same place. But my hands on the tops of, I guess, the tops of the bars felt great. So I need to like really lock into that position and ride that. And then stand up. I'm used to standing a lot more now. And I think there's just so many little variables going on but I really am more going to blame myself for not doing my stretches. The weird thing is I got home today and I was like, okay, let's do these exercises. I thought my glutes would feel really weak, and they actually felt pretty strong because I've been doing other lifts, which was a great conversation in the Discord. Hey, do people still do the little things when you're doing the big lifts? And I had said, I think the answer is yes, but even said, hey, I've been kind of slacking on it. I need to get back to it. So I'm going to try and do all these little mini things because, as you know, I'm doing that Vuelta al Ecuador in 3 weeks. And if I can't ride 4 hours pain-free, there's no way I have a shot at winning a 6-hour stage. So that would be super disappointing. We'll see what happens.
So I have a bunch of questions about that race, but I don't want to harp on this too much. But in regards to things, would you consider it all?
This is what Bike Radio is about. And hang on, before you harp on that, hey, everybody, welcome to Bike Radio. We're really bad at doing introductions. My name is Brendan Hausler. This is CX Not, just kidding. This is EVOQ Bike. This is Bike Radio. This is a very casual show. As you can tell, we just kind of jumped in and started talking. We have other videos that are more, hey, this is our thoughts on training. We have super fast people and world tour coaches doing interview series. We have different series about different disciplines. But Bike Radio is really more us just cutting it up on things that we want to talk about. And stream of consciousness, what's going on in road, gravel, cross. And for context, I've been racing for, I really need to get this intro down, 14 years, 2009. 2009 was my first race. Got my Cat 1 in 2010, 3-time Masters national champion, 10-time state P1 champ. That's what we're doing. Who are you on the other side of the microphone?
Josh Nagel. I've been racing for 15 years, 4 times national champion. No, none of that's true. I've been racing.
When you said 15, I was like, damn, you've been racing that long?
I just had to one up you, man. I've been racing for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that, 8 years.
Cool.
I current New York State gravel champion. I know, with the asterisk that you called me out on last time, but it's true. Second place, first in New York State. I race mountain bikes, mostly cross, and some road, a little bit of everything.
Cool. I love it. And before you make your other comment about the saddle, I was thinking about Lucy today because I was like, so I'm in Florida now and we're in a condo, not in the house. There's really no door. I was like, Chris, where do you want me to do this? I'm about to do Bike Radio, so it's going to get rowdy. I'm going to be laughing. We're going to be loud. And think of you when you're like, I'm being too loud. Lucy's yelling at me. These podcasts, though, I get like fired up. I was talking to an athlete last night. He's just like PRing and crushing, and just because he's making newbie gains, it's not like he's not even trying. And I like slowly hear the door close. I'm like, sorry. So anyways, so what about the saddle?
Well, I was going to ask you, I'm sure you have your fit dialed in. Like, you've been racing for 14 years, like it's dialed in, but would you ever consider going back and like updating?
Totally. Yes. 100%. And I actually thought that today. My shout out to Rob Schuler at Towpath. If anyone's in upstate New York, he was the one who first fit me. He has gone through fit schools. He's did fitting before there was all the laser crazy, whatever stuff that he uses now, which I really like because he was more in tune with just the rider. And I would definitely go and get another fit. I just want it to be him. And so I have to go back there with my bike, and I would go to somebody else. The only thing is then you like move a couple things. And I know some people that went to like a fitter and changed so many things at once. I'm like, how would you ever know what worked and what didn't? It's probably not going to be all that. Rob was very, okay, let's change this one thing, see what this does, and then tweak one more thing. And so if anything, I would like to get have him like see me in riding position, because all these bikes for the past, I haven't lived there in a long time, 7 years have just been me like, this seems pretty good. Yeah, I'm good with this. I can tell. I actually do the old school, put your heel on the pedal. And if it's almost just out of reach, that usually is like a really good saddle height for me. Jam it all the way forward. I used to have my stem a little bit higher. So It could be that the stem's a little bit lower, although it hadn't seemed to bother me. I really think what it is when I nudge forward, it then has me do something weird with my back and it's pulling something. And then with the whole QL thing that happened this past year, I'm sure there might be some little thing going on there. The weird thing was though, as I said, I came back, I did my stretches, nothing felt tight. I was expecting something to be like, ooh, that's the thing. That's why this is happening. But I stretched, I felt good. I also had 2 massive weeks the past 2 weeks. So I'm like, maybe I'm just riding a little bit too much. And then I realized I have a rest week coming up going into Thanksgiving. That's a danger zone. Stay away. That means I can't eat anything bad. Because I really want to drop like 2 pounds before this race.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you should enjoy yourself, which you should, but I'm saying with your goal, you do have a big race coming up. Like,
yeah. Like the biggest race that I'll do for, I don't know, I don't want to say forever. Maybe I can do another one of these, and it's a weird race where I actually found out the prologue is now a circuit race. It's not a prologue. So there could be 5 stages that I'll be a normal human at. And then we go to the high mountains and I'm going to bring my phone and take some cool pictures because I won't be racing.
So let's jump into this, man. So what's the name of the race? An 8-day stage race. What's it called?
Vuelta Ecuador,
okay.
Tour of Ecuador. So I'm pumped to do a Vuelta. It's not the Vuelta, but it's a Vuelta.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And really, how did this all come about with you getting like, are you like guest riding or how does this work?
It's technically, although we're not really supposed to call it a composite team because the UCI doesn't like that. It's V13, that clothing brand. They had some people from like Rio Grande and the Volair guys were going to go and the date changed. It was supposed to be in November. It moved to December. And since this will get posted not today, and we're going to announce that Landry is a new coach with EVOQ, people will know that name by the time this comes out. Landry messaged me on Sunday. Today's Monday. Was it Sunday?
No, today's Tuesday.
Whoa. Today's Tuesday. Okay. So it was Sunday. I get a message. I come back from the ride. I'm sitting in the pool with Chris, and it's like, hey, do you want to do Vuelta Ecuador in a month? And I was like, that sounds like Thanksgiving. I thought it was October. As you can tell, it is a whirlwind over here. And he's like, no, Thanksgiving is in like a week and a half. It's in December. And he told me the dates. And Patrick was coming down here to ride. And I was like, oh man. I'm like, well, what is this thing? He's like, it's 8-day stage race. I'm like, oh man. And then he linked me up with this guy from Rio Grande who sent me all the stages. And I was like, oh man, this looks insane. You start in Guayaquil and you eventually end up in Quito. And I did a school report on Quito. So I was like, that's an omen if I've ever heard one before. And so I messaged Patrick and said, hey, what? So I got invited to this stage race. How much of a pain and what's the financial loss of you canceling that ticket and us rescheduling our bromance? And he's like, it's basically canceled. You have to go do that race. I was like, I appreciate you doing that. Sweet. So he canceled that. And I started looking at tickets to how would I get to this place. And it's always interesting. At first I was like, man, it's $1,800. That sucks. And then I did an origin multi-city. So Fort Lauderdale to Guayaquil, and then Quito to Fort Lauderdale. It ended up being like $1,150 and not even like Comfort Plus on Delta. So I was like, that's awesome. And so so I decided to buy the ticket. I was like, I'm going to go either way as this team was forming up and we're getting jerseys together. We're all buying black bibs because we have to be, all professional looking for the UCI overlords, as somebody called them, which was funny. And we're just going to go rip it. So, sweet. And then I was coming back. I was talking to Chris about the day I'd come back. He's like, well, I'm going to be in Denver. I'm like, sweet. I'm staying in Ecuador longer. So the race is the 6th, the 8th to the 15th. I'm going to get there on the 5th just to make sure there's like a couple days before this thing. ride a day or two, like meet these guys, race to keto, hopefully make all the time cuts, not get dropped like super early or something embarrassing. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, have 5 or 6 days to ride and then fly back just before Christmas. So pumped.
It's a great trip. So, and with Delta, going into some of these specifics here, you can bring your bike. Is that your plan? Bring it to the airport?
Yes, and that was another thing that I was checking into, size of bikes. They're JetBlue. I'm sure this can't be right, but it said the bike box could be 80 inches. I don't know of a bike box that's 80 inches. A normal bike box is like, well, these bigger ones are like, 110. 80 sounds very tiny. That's taking everything. My bike is massive. I don't know if you probably can't. You can't see it. It's actually in here charging.
Yeah.
It's humongous. So I'm actually borrowing a bike box because then I was going to maybe buy one of these gigantic bike box Allens. You only have to take the wheels off. That sounds amazing. And put the seat down a little bit. But that's in the UK. It's $700. It's $200 to ship. It might not definitely get here. Not really feeling that. So I'm talking to this mechanic who's going to get back to me on the size of it. And if not, I have an athlete that I might buy his Thule. So anyways,
there's no
I'm excited for the
there's no like local shop or somebody you can hit up down there. I'm sure there's got to be somebody probably in Fort Lauderdale.
No, there are. There are. There's so many shops. This mechanic here's looking and he has one. I just want to make sure he can't remember what it's called. So I don't want to get there and have it be the one that I used to have, the Thule, where you have to take everything off, and I don't want to deal with that. And they're not great. I don't want this piece of crap and get over there and have my bike broken. I used to do the soft case. I had a chain ring bent, and I had they gouged my stem once, the paint off this black ink bars. Delta paid for it, but it was in a soft case. So they were clearly just launching that bad boy around, and it got beat up. So they always paid for it, but I don't really want to. I'm not worried about the money. I'm worried about the bike being rideable. So, and it's just funny because now I'm going to take it in to get serviced. I think I might need some new chain rings. I was in the base mode. I'm like, okay, everything's good to go. I'm like, ooh, I need to buy new tires, new this, new that, da da da. So, and yeah, it was a very. I told Landry, I'm like, thanks for thinking of me. He's like, I felt like you were the YOLO, like pull the trigger, like you're either in or you're out. And that's why I just bought the ticket. Cause then I was like, I'll figure out all this other stuff. I think I have to get a couple shots, like a rabies pre-shot. And I have had some from Costa Rica a couple years ago, but I need to get a typhoid and maybe something else. So yeah, just let's add a few more things to the list and get it done and make it happen.
Are you going to bring like extra wheels or anything? Or are they going to have like the team have some stuff?
Everybody, it's like teams save the rim brake. So I might be the only person on disc wheels. So they're like, you might want to bring another pair of wheels. I don't even know how I would do that. They don't really fit in my duffel bag that well. That's a joke. And I don't know. Do I get yeah.
You got to get one of those big bags, dude. I see like Tobin Ortenblad, and he's and Cody and all those guys when they're flying across, West Coast to East Coast, and they bring like 8 wheel sets with them, and they have just this giant wheel bag. You take the rotors off, and it's a pain, but
yeah. And their bike they bring?
Oh yeah, I think they. I don't know if they usually travel with 2, but sometimes they do. It's like they're at the airport with like 10 bags.
Yeah, I'm gonna avoid that because that just seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Maybe we'll carry 10 bags.
What about nutrition stuff? I'm sure you're bringing stuff.
I'm trying to go back. I have this like North Face camping bag. Yeah, nutrition. I actually was thinking about that, and that's a good thing. I was going to ask these guys because I'm not going to be able to bring new. I'm not going to be able to bring maple syrup bottles, so I might actually hit up Ted King and order some syrup packets, or I will suck on some sugar cane over there and get diseases.
Yeah. Well,
Worth it for the win. Chris laughed at that. So yeah, nutrition, that'll be good. And then the training, just did some over-unders today. It's kind of weird going back into intervals right now. Mentally, I was there because I've got this race coming up, but it was, wow, this is almost December and I'm going to go crank out some over-unders, and they went okay. Did a VO2 max, and that's when I just started not feeling great. So I'm really hoping that I can go to this group ride this weekend and feel awesome by hour 5. That will make me feel super happy. So I'm going to take it easy these next few days. Well, easy or nah, maybe not. We'll see. Who knows?
I'm curious how that conversation went with Tom when you're talking to your coach. What did he have to say?
We're actually talking after this. We haven't been able to connect. Yesterday was nuts. I'm doing 8,000 podcasts and doing the athletes, and I actually, yeah, so we'll see. He was pumped. He's like, I think this would be a good thing to go do, which sort of surprised me, but not really. He's definitely more variety even throughout the base season, just shift the frequency of hard sessions. So I'm sort of adapting that with some other athletes. And this went back, I think we talked about this in the first one, where even when I was doing base with what the OGs told us, we were still cranking out these 30-second, 1-minute efforts on fixed gear bikes because we were getting up these hills. And it's not just Z2, and I know that. And I don't think I've ever done just that, but I was pretty darn, I should look back on some years. I mean, was pretty religious with the Z2, at least on the weekends. During the week, you can do some tempo, and I think, I think that stuff's good. I'm just more surprised. I never would have had somebody do VO2 max in December, January, but I'm kind of changing my tune on that. Just have the session be not a 5x5, let's say, but maybe like even just 2 5-minute intervals. I think there's something to that. Just kind of maintain it. So
How does this change your going into next year now?
yeah, so I was thinking about that in terms of maybe I don't do Tour of South Florida or some early stuff in February, because I really do want to have that time to hit the reset button. And I'm curious what Tom will think about that. If I get back, I finish the race the middle of December. That means that I would have 2 months until 2 months bring middle of February. I think I could get by with 8 weeks of base as opposed to like I probably would more normally do 12. But I don't know. Maybe I wait till March. I'll be curious to see what he says. With my other goals so much farther down the road, nationals, amateur nationals is in June-ish, and then Masters Nats is in August. I'm not really going to do gravel this year, I don't think. It never really did it for me this past year, and everything's so Midwest, like central US. I'm on the East Coast now, and I mean, there's Belgium waffle rides, but even some of those, people were talking about, oh, there's all a single track and da 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 at the end of the race. That's not what I'm into. So I'm not going to do gravel because everybody's doing gravel. I'm going to do gravel because I really like it. I went to a few races that I thought were cool, but now everything's turning into tough mud around bikes, and I'm just not feeling that vibe. So, and not knocking it, just it's not for me. So I'm not going to toe the line in something where I'm like, oh, this is going to suck.
Did you ever isn't there a gravel race by you, a much smaller scale? Isn't there one like kind of in that area?
Do you know the name?
I want to say it's like,
there's a bootlegger 100.
yeah, it wasn't called that. I want to say it was like, I mean, I could be making this up, but like you said sugarcane earlier. I thought it was called like the sugarcane something.
Oh, in Florida. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sugarcane 200.
Okay,
I'm guessing
yeah.
it's probably all sand. Ted King won it, but I was going to do it 2 years ago, right before COVID broke out. I would maybe do that. I don't know. Who wants to ride 17 miles an hour, 18
Yeah.
miles an hour, or like racing at 20? Went on a group ride here and we were taking polls 30 plus. It was, 29 average for an hour. And then they stopped at the store and I kind of cruised around a little bit and met back up with them. And it was 45 minutes at like 29 and a half. I'm like, this is, Tom actually commented. He's like, because I told him I was going to go this ride. I'm like, okay, so scratch all the plans. I'm going to go meet some people. He's like, this is actually one of the best group rides that I've seen. Like when you weren't on the front hammering it, you were actually still pedaling. It was, I want to say the whole ride was only like 30% zone one, as opposed to you see these group rides where it's 50%. It's so anaerobic. It was quite interesting. And it was really good to get the race brain going again, because when it's that fast, if you miss the move and you think about it too long, dudes are up the road. They're just motoring. So it was fun. Had a couple town line sprints and yeah, so you know, I think yeah, I think just being cautious about getting ready too early next year. And I've definitely been way better about that recently. I always used to be tired after nationals and somewhat ready to just check out because I was always so ready in March. But for the Northeast, there always wasn't a ton in August. September was Green Mountain, and I always had this hard it I had a hard time staying motivated all through August for one race left when I usually had already had what I would consider a successful season, because I loved coming out super early and just crushing and like big, big races in April and May. But down here, there's just racing all the time. And with things more like nationals as the goal, it sort of dictates when I need to be ready, as opposed to me being able to choose like, oh, I'm going to go do bat and kill, and I'm going to go do that race in Buffalo, and then I'm going to go do the race in Albany, Capital Region, then, Catskills. And there was sort of a roadmap up there. Up here, it's more the Wild Wild West. Southeast has a lot of racing. Top View Sports puts on endless races. And so, yeah, it's just a little bit different. I think that's actually a good point. I talked to some people in Texas about that there's some athletes just have a really tough time in July and August, even in June when it's just brutally hot. I said, so why don't you come out and crush in February? Crush February, March, and April, and then go into May, pending the weather. You just had 3 months to race your face off, and then hit some endurance, do some things that aren't horrible. I mean, Florida here, you do a couple efforts in the summer and you're dead. You're just melted. It's probably good on a cellular level. I mean, I come back pretty wrecked sometimes. That's probably not good. But if you're not going to have fun and you can't race well, race when you do race well. No one says you have to be a superstar in July. And then, so then you do like a nice endurance block, get that back, maybe do it for a month and a half, 2 months, and then tee up some things for in the fall. And maybe that means that for 3 or 4 weeks, you do go inside and ride on Zwift, or you figure out go ride super early. Memphis, I rode early simply because it was hot as hell. And it took me forever to adapt to those temperatures. 90 would destroy me. I'm much better in it now. But so I think I think this is actually a good tangent, however we get on this. Athletes don't often look at themselves as how they're going to schedule things based around their goals. It's sort of like, what is everybody else doing? And it's just such a misstep that I did really well at bat and kill because I got ready for bat and kill. Other people were like, oh, well, it's the first race of the year. I'm like kind of cruising in. I'm like, this is the race in the Northeast. Why are you not ripping for this? Who cares about everything else? No one cares. Everybody cares about bat and kill. So gotta be selfish with your schedule. And if you're on a team, like obviously within what the team is doing, but
No, I think people look at it like, I want to come out in March and I want to be good through September.
it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
If there's and those are hard. Then people are like, well, there's a series. I'm like, cool, that's really difficult. You're asking yourself to be good like 12 times or however many times. That's hard to do. I just had a conversation with a guy who's gonna do so how long is this? 220K. What is that? 160 miles?
Yeah, 100, 220, 160. I think it's like 130. Yeah.
Okay. 23,000 feet of climbing. And I'm like, FY, you can't do this on 3-hour weekend rides. Like, well, what do you think it would take? I was like, whew. He knows this, but sometimes just that reminder, like, okay, this is I'm telling you, this is massive. This scares me. I love riding really far and climbing a ton. 23,000 feet. I hit like 8 in North Carolina. I'm like, oof, damn, there's still 2,000 more to go. I did 13,000 a couple weeks ago, and it was climbing. It felt like all day long, just up these freaking hills. Double that. So, anyways, be realistic with your planning. Be smart about it. Think about it. Think about you. Think about what your team's going to do. And yeah, it's a good.
I like that, dude. Like thinking about yourself, I think it's like being a little bit selfish with your training and like just being real about that. That's fine. Like this is the race I actually want to do well at. Like you said, this is the race that matters, and aim for that race.
Mm-hmm. Tom's comment on the group ride was, hey, I think this would fit in actually once a month or maybe every other week if you're not gonna in the base period, simply because if you're gonna race in 2 months, let's say, this was before Ecuador came up, and he said, while we want to have control, meaning not riding with other people most of the time, every once in a while having to do those reactive, and you're not controlling when you sprint, you're following other moves, you're reacting to people in the group. He's like, I think that's fine. And that's actually one of the things we posted in the like, when's a group ride appropriate? It's really good to learn that race. I always use the word staccato because it sounds cool, but I don't think that's the right word. The movement of the race, the dance. And that's definitely different from what I would have ever said. I never would have had people do group rides during base. I don't know if I really. Well, there are a few people. It's if they need it, if they need that skill. I actually just thought of somebody that I am like, we just talked about going to this group ride because they need to learn more of being in the group. I've seen them ride a bike, and like they need to be in a group more.
But also with your group ride though, like you're out there with dudes who could be at this race with you. These guys are hitters, It's not like you're going up and you're blowing up Johnny Pants on his, Sunday ride.
Yeah. That's very true. And did we talk? Was that a different podcast? But you don't want to be the biggest fish and just squashing people. It might feel good that day, but it's not really helping you get better, because it's not. A really good example was that I think one of the most beneficial parts of that group ride this past weekend was we were coming up to a sprint, and there's a guy who can sprint, but he's super strong. And so I knew where the line was because like it's that crosswalk. Somebody explained to me, I'm like, okay, cool. We were, gosh, it's hard to, like 30 seconds away. So this dude takes off, and I'm like, I do not want to go this early. And I don't know. And I don't want somebody to follow me right away. I just was not in the right, like, I wasn't ready to go. Like we were going pretty fast up to this point. And then this guy takes off who can sprint. And I was like, damn it. It's either I go now or he's going to get on that guy's wheel and he's going to get it. So I like sprint after that dude, just get up on his wheel as he's taking off from behind the guy who basically kind of led him out. And I'm like, so I go again. And I think he went a little too hard. And I was like, I just got to go right now, and just came past him. And that, like, psychologically, he was like, I'm done. And he sat up and I cruised across. But having to do those two efforts when I didn't even want to, like, I just wanted to be a sprint, and forced me out of my comfort zone. Also made me be thinking, like, what's this little match? Can I get to that guy? And then can I go again if he actually starts sprinting? And those are the valuable lessons of just being in there and figuring it out. And I think I was talking to somebody else about sprinting, and technique. And while sprint training is important, I think this type of sprint training where you're in the group sprinting for something is the best. And it blew my mind that I really stopped assigning it or prescribing. I don't really like the word prescribe. Coaches use that. We're not doctors. I didn't give those workouts. There was one that always used to be given to me, was town line sprints by Jason Hillmeyer. And it was like, just go with your buds. And when there's a town line, when it was January, he'd say, yo, don't insinuate it. But when somebody goes, react to it and crush them. And I was like, cool. So you'd have to wait, go, destroy. Then when it was February, he's like, whatever you have to do, win. And I was like, okay. And I would give those to people. And I'd look through their file. I'm like, they sprinted like once. And one person, well, there's not really many town lines. I'm cool. In Tennessee, they do stop ahead signs, which is dicey if the sign is like really close to the stop sign. It's usually not. But, you know, all of a sudden you come around a corner, you see a stop ahead, it's like, oh, damn, and you got to sprint. You might not be in the right gear. You got to figure it out. And those on your toes, ad hoc things, no one was doing them. I'd give them to almost everybody. And one person or somebody's like, well, I ride alone. I'm like, well, if you see a sign, go sprint for it. Like, we can't sprint by yourself. So I might bring that back, and maybe we can point them to this bike radio. That's racing, you know. People go to a race and they're like, oh, I went to sprint and I was in the wrong gear. Like, well, that's why you should have done those freaking town line sprints. So you'd figure out your gears and know you got to know what the bike feels like underneath you, what the pedal stroke feels like. I can't say that I would be like, oh, I'm in the 14, but I know, am I in an easy enough gear to sprint? Or in hard enough gear? That's what I was telling somebody. They said, what should my RPMs be? I said, well, you might even be starting like just below 90 and ending around 120. But more importantly, you want to be, you're in too easy of a gear. If obviously you go and you like are spinning out, you're in too hard of a gear. If you have no jump, you want to be in that gear where you hit it and you're actually moving forward as fast as possible, whether you're on an incline, slight decline, it's flat, there's headwind, whatever. There's so many variables to what's the right gear. It's the gear that will make you go forward the fastest. And most likely you don't want to shift as little as possible. You lose a little bit. That's when you see, when you're like this and you shift and someone gets a little bit closer to you. So sprint training is interesting. I mean, Adam Hansen was talking about it. He talks about it from the different angle of raise the ceiling. If you only have a 1,000-watt sprint and you do 800 watts, that's pretty close to your max. Whereas if you can get that to 1,200, then 800 feels easier. I agree with that, but we're kind of crisscrossing all these energy systems. But I think more importantly, besides just the watts, it's the application. Like when and how are we using this? Even if you're, Claudia talked about it, I think briefly in the podcast, even if you're a climber, there's usually a sprint between 4 guys. So, you know.
And I think also just don't overcomplicate it. Like when you're saying all this, I'm thinking back to like, I've done group rides, but yes, I've done sprints like that for sure recently in the last couple of months. But I'm saying going back to like when I first started riding, like I didn't even have a power meter. I wasn't thinking about what gear I was in, or I was just like, let's sprint, man. Let's go hard. Like this is fun.
Yes. And so the numbers kind of can mess that up. It can get you away from what the whole point of it is. It's to get you across the line first, the fastest, you know. I don't know. I'm like thinking of this. There's going to be a better way. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be a better way to have how the athlete feels and tracking wattages in different ways. Like, you know, there should not be, I haven't said this yet. I was thinking about this months ago. People know I'm not really into templates because why would you buy that? You could find one for free and just go ride your bike. Instead of a workout thing that tells you what to do, there should be a workout checker that I'm sure online they have like some of these, like Trainer Road might have something like this, or that's like, hey, go do this percentage, or even in training peaks, like it kind of will match up the watts with what the ride workout was. But there are so many times where if you had a template and it says go ride 4 by 10 minutes at 100%, whatever, I know a lot of people that cannot execute that. They're not good at it. But then they send it to you like, yeah, this is my threshold ride. I'm like, this is garbage. This is I mean, yeah, well, no, you didn't do that at all. And I don't say that. I would never tell them that it's garbage. That's what I'm thinking. But I would politely show them like, hey, if you really want to do 4 by 10s, you want to have like more control of your watts. Maybe you're not having consistent pressure on the pedals. Like, have you tried doing these on a climb? Da, da, da. Help somebody execute intervals better. They don't have to be crazy and complicated. We don't need 50 zones with all these nuances. And I think it's so easy to mis-execute basic intervals that then if you give somebody like over-unders or even just VO2 max stuff, that's going to be really difficult. If you can't hold the tempo wattage straight, how the heck are you going to do that for VO2 max? I mean, that's like, I even caught myself today. I was doing the initial over too hard because I was feeling good. It was super early. And I was like, what do I do? I was just getting excited. And I was like, yo, calm it down. You're going to fade. You're not going to be able to complete this, Joey. So we all, can't always do them perfectly.
I use that word execution all the time in my Training Peaks comments. I think that's great. It's like you said. And you know what I tell a lot of athletes is like going into base season here and like we're sprinkling in some intensity is to work on that execution. This is a good time when just realize if you're doing your rides inside, like how this interval actually works and how you feel and how to pace it or how to really go deep. It's a good time to focus on that.
And how you feel is so important because then you can tell when something's off. And yeah, I mean, that's what I can't remember who I had this conversation with, and we were talking about, I've referenced this probably 7 times now, learning how to go deep, watching somebody else do it that's really good at it, that's better than you. I watched Patrick do these 1-minute efforts and I was like, wow, he is going ham. I'm not going that hard. I remember feeling like I was going to rip my bars off. He's like, dude, you're not like, there's people way stronger than us doing this. Like, it's good. Just crank on that thing. And yeah, once you have that unlock, I hate that term, but once you do kind of unlock that sense of how hard you need to be going on the bike, and then I think it's more the neuromuscular connection, like your brain and your muscles, your coordination, understanding how to go ham. It's just like I went on this ride and I could pick out probably who's been riding for 3 years and who's been riding for 15. Very different look of a cyclist. And you can usually tell when somebody rolls by. I'm like, oh, what up, Joey? Or it's like, oh, the person's been riding a while. So we need a shirt that just says Joey EVOQ bike.
That would be good, dude, with a little duck. Or maybe not the duck. I don't know.
Maybe not the duck.
Yeah.
I know like some people love the flock. Other people like, I don't really want a shirt with a duck on it. I'm like, that's cool. We didn't make it for you then.
Okay, dude, I want to changing gears here. Altitude tents. I know you put that out on Strava.
I did.
What's the latest? What are you doing?
Don't have one. Not going to get one. I've thought about it. I went back and forth a long time ago and was like, I need to get one of these. And then it was, well, the literature's not really that great. I don't know if I want to spend the money on one. And now that I'm married, I definitely don't think it's happening because I'm not going to be sleeping in this tent. Like, okay, see you tomorrow morning. That probably won't go over well. Now, and if there's a 2-person one, I don't think he's going to sleep in a tent. So probably a no-go, although I think it would be incredible. I've definitely seen benefit from, I sleep at 4,500 in North Carolina. I think it's been beneficial for sure. So yeah, no tent. Have you ever used one?
No, I have not, but I did do some research. It's like hard to find what a good one and what a bad one is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely scares me for these later stages. I mean, I'll definitely ride to the highest point I've ever ridden. I think we go up to 11,500 feet. So that'll be humorous. I don't know if I'll be able to do over 260 watts. I mean, I really have no idea. I've ridden up to 10,000. It was extremely difficult. the power file is literally this. It's a downward slope of wattage. So yeah, that's frightening. I just more hope that I can contribute in a way to the team before we get there. And then I'll get through 5 stages. And I'm like, okay, guys, good luck with the rest of the race. I'll see you at the finish line. Don't leave without me. And there's just going to be, I don't want to say it worries me, but when you're going to be mid to lower pack of talent, and then you're adding in the fact that I'm not acclimated to elevation or altitude, yeah, it's worrisome.
So I wanted to ask about your mindset. Like, I know you're stoked. It's going to be awesome. You're excited, obviously, but what is on your mind of like obviously the altitude? Is there anything else that's like kind of like thinking
so that's
about?
not on my mind really. I can't control that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If it was all at altitude, I probably would have said no. And I told the guys straight up front, like, I live at 4,500. I'm in Florida right now. So I'm happy to do whatever I can do for the first 5 stages. After that, I will be in the gruppetto, just trying to make the time cut. And then the last stage in keto is a circuit, but I think we're still at 7,000 feet. I could be wrong about that. So I can look up the elevation later, but no, more my mindset is the first couple stages will probably be crazy just because everyone's like has some nerves, but the second stage is 145 miles, relatively flat. Break goes. There will definitely be some sprinter teams that will try and control that. Maybe I'm the guy that gets up the road. Maybe I try and wait for a late race move.
You guys gonna have race radios?
I don't know. Probably, maybe. I'm not sure. So I think it'll depend on like who ends up on this roster. I would love to be, if there's a guy that can climb, I would love to be able to try and help out and get him in a good position. So I'll really do whatever I can do to help this team, and just going in with that attitude, putting pressure on yourself for a race like this, I think doesn't make sense. I really don't put pressure on myself when I'm racing better people, because the expectation is I'm Cat 4 Joey to these guys. If I was going to a race like a state championship where I have a really good shot of winning, I'm probably a little bit more nervous. Like, it's almost like I don't want to lose that race. And if something happened and I somehow did something awesome, it'd be crazy. That's just not the expectation. So no pressure. The pressure is not going to help me. This is what most of these guys do all the time. I'm just really excited for the opportunity to do, I guess since this prologue is now becoming a circuit race, it's going to be 9 stages, super long. What are we going to feel like towards the end of that race? It's going to be a lot of climbing. And then I'm going to be, last time I did a big race, although it wasn't UCI at Tour Southland, that was so hard. And I was very quickly realized, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of really, really fast people here. It's weird when you realize you're not getting a result. Like, oh, this is not going to win anything here. Just try not to get dropped. I didn't even do that. I got dropped, I think, every day. So, and then we left right after, and I wish I'd stayed and hung out in New Zealand. So I'm excited to hang out in Ecuador for a few more days and just watch the race take off. And then I'll be in Quito, and so I'll be in Quito and I'll do some big rides. And I was actually, the thing that clinched me buying the ticket was I was hoping to maybe stay with Raleigh at this place that he has, Raleigh Weaver, one of my new teammates that I've raced with a bunch. He might not be there. I'm like, well, how expensive are these hotels? Like, dude, hotels are really cheap. So I looked at hotels.com, which I thought would naturally inflate prices because it's like through hotels.com. Looked up, I'm like, oh, that place looks actually really nice. $20. 20. I was like, literally 20. Like, it just shows, the world, we're so freaking spoiled and just so much to be grateful for that you could take out a bill out of your wallet and pay for a night in a hotel there. It's
So
mind blowing.
is your buddy Raleigh, is he a US guy?
Raleigh lives in Georgia,
Okay.
and he has raced on Conti teams. I don't know if he's ever been on a pro Conti team. He's raced all over the world. He's actually been to over 100 countries. Tidbit for those that know Raleigh. Raleigh was on, was it called the Great American Race, or what's that race where they race around the world?
Oh,
Well, Raleigh was on it. If
okay.
you Google this, if you guys Google Raleigh, he was on there as a kid, which is hilarious. He knows like 7
Amazing race.
languages. What's that? Amazing race. He
That's
was
what
on
it is.
that.
Yep.
So I'm excited to race with him more this year, and just seems like a very interesting person that we've just crossed paths through some local things in Georgia. And so he actually earlier this year was like, hey, you want to come to Ecuador and train? Apparently, even though it's a relatively poor country, their president, I want to say, at one point was all about infrastructure and repaved all these roads, even though they don't use them all. He's like, it's amazing. And so another teammate, Forrest, was down there, and he's like, man, you got to come down here. It's incredible. And then I was like, guys, I'm coming. They're like, oh, we're not there. I'm like, well, I'm coming anyways. Hope you come back. So we'll see. He lives just north of Quito, or I don't know if Raleigh has a place there, or if he rents a place, or he knows people. He's really tied into all, like, he's raced on a team from China. So just a really well-connected dude in the cycling world. So I think it's going to be, I'm really excited. I think that I did a tandem World Cup, UCI World Cup, actually, like years ago. I didn't have to bring the bike, but I went over and did it in the Netherlands, and that was a cool experience. I got to do that big Grand Fondo in France, brought my bike to New Zealand. And I think I'm just less nervous about this because packing everything, and there's like, you don't want to forget anything, but you hope nothing breaks with the bike. At the end of the day, as long as you put everything in the bag, if it gets there, it gets there. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, I used to get really nervous about that and be worried about stuff. And it's like, how's that gonna help? So are they gonna be a pain about the bike at the airport and da da da? And I don't know. Just gonna be more laid back about it. Get over there, get things set up. I mean, I guess maybe I should try and bring another set of wheels.
Well, yeah, I got another tech question. Are you going to change your crankset or cassette or anything?
No, they're not super steep climbs. It's just like, no, I've got a 3928. My buddy Andrew always used to say, if you need more than a 23, you're not racing. And I was like, wow, that's aggressive. But it's kind of true. So
It gets a little
I'm gonna
steep
keep
in
going.
upstate New York. Oh, dude, going back to upstate New York, people always ask me this, and maybe you get this too. Why was he riding fixed gears?
Snow. No, you were weird as hell if you rolled up with gears. You'd get laughed at. Like, what? You're gonna wreck your bike? What are you doing here with that? Like, everybody rode fixed gears. It was the culture. It was, and if you were on gears, then we were going like 16, 17 miles an hour, and you probably wanted to ride faster. And we're like, look at that, going too fast. It's winter, bro. It's base miles. You're gonna peak too early. That's just what people would be saying. I didn't know what was going on.
Do you remember what your gear ratio was? I'm curious.
Yeah, it was 42-17, I believe.
Okay.
Or maybe 16. And it was actually hotly contested because of town line sprints. If you had too big of a gear, people would out you, be like, yo, what gear you got on that? Oh, you're cheating. No, invalid. Get out of here. He's got a bigger gear. So everybody had, I think it was a 16 in the back. But yeah, so you hit, Garnsey, or you hit some climbs out there, and you're going hard. There's no way around it.
You miss riding the fixie at all?
I think about it every once in a while. I've considered, because your leg speed is insane. The problem is when you hit a downhill and you're doing 130 revolutions and you're not always on the nicest fixed gear, I've had the chain pop off and gone flying off the bike. That's not fun. And I would maybe no, I wouldn't. Nah. There's good to it, but I think when you're in the South, just ride the road bike. I remember hearing Patrick be like, yeah, people ride carbon wheels all the time. That was another thing. If you were on a training ride and you rode carbon wheels, aka race wheels, shunned. Like, oh, Gucci, hello, race wheels. This is a training race, bro. I had a friend, shout out Dave Richardson. He got a KOM, and I was like, dude, were you on race wheels? And he's like, maybe. I was like, invalid, doesn't count. Get out of here. I was like, that's douchey. Dude, what is going on here?
I don't know. We can wrap this up, man. Just say goodbye.
Sorry, man.
No, don't worry about it. You're making me work with these edits.
I know. Just look for when there's no volume. Yeah. It just all of a sudden Zoom just shuts down.
It's all good. It happens. Technical issues. That's what we're known for.
I was like, this is our MO.
We're on brand.
Such a horrible brand. Well, this is a good one though. I had a bunch of other topics and we just kind of rolled with it. So thanks for the good questions and good topics. Any parting thoughts before we get cut off again?
Any parting thoughts? No, I don't think I got anything.
A bunch of people were asking when you're going to change your Instagram name to CX Noggin.
CX Noggin. No, you already. I need to change it to Josh Noggle. You already said. I remember I updated it to what it is now, and you were like, "Oh yeah, you made it a little bit less confusing."
Yeah. Well, how do you spell it? It was like first you were Mr. Manager or something. What was that?
That's from Arrested Development.
A TV show?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were talking about like the band Arrested Development.
There's an Arrested Development band?
Yeah. What? Dude.
I don't
wait,
know
how old are
you?
You're 30?
33, 32,
Bro,
33?
You definitely know Arrested Development. Hang on a second. It's oh my God. Their song was Tennessee. Google them.
I will Google them. I don't think I've ever heard of them, but maybe the song will click.
It will click. And then so now you're Mr. Noggle or something?
Yep. With an extra G.
With like 15 G's. 15
G's.
And maybe that's what you'd be, 15 G's.
15 G's. It's not bad. I like that.
I actually did give Johnny Purvis his name Swaggy P. It's still Swaggy P. I can't believe it. Like 2.5 years later. He's 3 G's and 2 Y's. So I think you should be CX Noggle.
We'll see. People write in. Everyone send your email in, and I'll change.
They did. They were like, CX Noggin is amazing.
Hey, show me those emails, please.
Because you're I will. I'll just make them up. I'm like, hold on, let me make these new Gmail accounts real quick.
In regards to names, the Discord is amazing, and I love everyone in there. But some people message me and like, yeah, I messaged you on Discord, and I'm like, dude, you have a different name. I don't know.
Yeah, your name is Booger Pants. How do I know who you are? Or then I talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, Andy was so funny. He was Comet 15 or whatever, and he's like, I might change my name on there so people know him. I'm like, yeah, that'd be good. I'm like, why are you Comet 15? He's like, I used to just do shady crypto stuff. And I was like, that's hilarious. I'm like, yeah, come out of the closet with the shadiness and let's use Andy Bach. Yeah. So that's what should your name be? I mean, we could go Josh Noggle, but it doesn't seem like you want to be Josh Noggle.
I'm fine with it now, man. I'm over it. I was like anti-social media, but now that I'm like torn that down, whatever, let's go. Oh, you froze again. Hey guys, we lost Brendan, had some technical issues, but yeah, we'll be back next week. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, hope you guys are crushing it. Bye.